Yo, yo, it's JSF. How y'all doing? Hope everybody's doing all right. And I didn't plan on making this video, but I did run into something on Twitter. So I do once again want to talk about everyone's favorite topic, tier lists. And I know it's too early for tier lists. The game's only been out 2 weeks, basically. If you got it early. Early on its actual release, right? It's only been out about 2 weeks. But if you think I did a tier list too early, I understand. But we now have tier lists from some more accomplished and respected Japanese players, so I did want to talk about it because their tier lists were different, and there are four of them, right? But their tier lists weren't too far off from my tier list, and I don't say that to pat myself on the back. I say that to say that there are some varying character strengths in this game, so I do want to talk about it and go over it a little bit. And as always, if y'all enjoying the Guilty Gear content, please subscribe. But anyway, let's get into it. So I ran into this tweet, right? The tweet says, so Koji KOG, Goichi, Dogura, and Kiyame had a talk and made some tier lists. Now, Koji KOG actually posted this on Twitter. I'm going to link to his tweet. For those of y'all who don't know, Dogura, Koji KOG, these are all, I'm not as familiar with Kiyame, but the rest I'm very familiar with. These are all well-respected, well-known, high-level competitive fighting game players for multiple games for multiple years. I remember Koji KOG playing T-Hawk in Street Fighter 4, right? If you watch Dragon Ball, you're familiar with Dogura and Goichi, right? So they all made tier lists, and this is posted 6 hours ago, so this is pretty recent. So I want to go over it and talk about their tier list. Now, first off, we have Koji KOG's tier list first, and I think this one is probably the most interesting in terms of holy shit. He's got Chip in S tier. Now, for those of you who don't know, Koji KOG plays Potemkin. He typically plays grapplers. That's kind of his thing. Really good player. High level. These are all Japanese high level, god level players. So it's not a question of are they good or not. It's just interesting to see, right? He's got Chip above everybody, above Soul. Chip S tier. It's funny because I've recently, as of like yesterday, started trying to learn Chip. Not that I feel Soul is bad. I still think Soul is extremely good. But I think there are some matchups where Soul, I just don't like him. I don't enjoy him. I'm not going to say he loses, but I don't enjoy him. And Chip can mix. I mean, who doesn't want to mix, right? Anyway, so in the A tier, he obviously got Soul, Mei, Milia, Ramlethal, and Giovanna. This tier is so interesting. You typically see Giovanna or Milia a little bit lower, but that's what he's got. Then in the tier below it, he's got Potemkin, Nago, Kai, Ino, and Faust. I think Ino's way too low, obviously, if you saw my tier list. Then he's got Anji, and then he's got a question mark tier. For that, he has Axel, Leo, and Zato. I appreciate the honesty of just a question mark, like, man, I don't know where these characters are at. I do appreciate the honesty. This is probably, like, the most interesting of all the tier lists, in my opinion, sorry. But, yeah, I like that one. I thought that was interesting. Next up, we got good old Go Uno, Goichi, right? He's got Soul at S tier at the top of the ladder, just like, a lot of people have, just like I had. Now, his A tier, he has Chip, Mei, and Leo. My tier right below Soul was just Mei and Leo. So our top three is very similar. I just had Chip one below, and then I had Ramlethal. So Chip snug up to the top, and if you haven't noticed, the Japanese players seem to have realized earlier than the American players that Chip is really good. Goichi's been playing Chip for a while. Kazunoko was playing Chip. Like Goichi started off playing Ramlethal and then went to Chip, and I don't know if he's looked back. I don't know if he's playing both, but yeah, they seem to realize the power of playing Chip now. In the US and America, maybe even the UK, it was early on, it was like, oh, Chip has no health. He dies in one hit. LOL, Ramlethal can just reversal super and he's dead. And I totally get it, but he's still really good, man, and they see it too. B tier, we got Ram, Geo, Milia, Zato, Axel. Not too different, right? Milia's up there, but not too different, except we have Ino, Nago, and Pot in the tier below it. That is what interests me. because I think those three characters are all underrated. I think Nagoriyuki, Potemkin, and Ino are all underrated by most of these Japanese players, right? Because I have them a bit higher. I think they're all good enough to get the job done. You can't play them as conventionally as some of the other characters, and that's probably why they seem weak. But then again, I don't want to undermine the Japanese players. They might know some shit that I don't know, right? That's very, very possible. So with the next tier list, we got Dogura's tier list, and at S tier, he's got Soul and Chip. Starting to see a pattern, right? But then it gets interesting. He's got Ramlethal, he's got Geo, he's got Mei, he's got Milia and Zato in his tier right below the top. Then below that, he's got everybody else. He's got Leo, Axel, Pot, Ino. He's got everybody, right? It's like interesting. They seem to consistently think Anji's lower tier, Kai's lower tier, Faust is lower tier. And they kind of have Nago down there too, right? Potemkin, Ino. I'm really surprised at seeing Ino down there. Even Nagoriyuki, because he's got hella potential. He's harder to use. He's probably the hardest character to play in the game. Even though they say Zato is probably him, because you have to manage your blood gauge all the time. It is not even you have to stop yourself from going into blood rage. You have to manage it. Going into blood rage might be the right decision sometimes. You know what I mean? But yeah, then finally we got Kiame's tier list. He has Zato in the S tier, which I find very interesting. I'm not gonna say it's wrong, but I find it interesting. Also has Chip up there with Soul, then Ramlethal, Mei, Milia, Giovanna, and Leo up there. So there's some consistency. Like they all think Soul is good. They all think Chip is good. They all think Ramlethal and Mei are up there. They all think Milia is good. They all have Milia really high. Like not in the top tier, but I think in all these tier lists, Milia is pretty close to the top, right? They all have Potemkin pretty lower. They have Nago pretty lower. Ino pretty lower. Kai, Anji and Faust are pretty much who they all consider to be lower on the tier list. Axel, I think, fluctuates, jumps around a little bit. This one, Potemkin isn't in the lowest of low tiers, and neither is he in Koji KLG's, but just characters they don't consider to be top tier. But yeah, I find this really, really interesting. I really enjoy picking people's brains and like seeing what other people perceive of the same things, right? Seeing how other people view something that I view, right? Like I think Ino's way too low on these tier lists. I think Nago's way too low, but I agree with most of it. Like I had Milia lower on my tier list, but I don't think she's bad. I just don't think she's as good as Chip. You know what I mean? I think Milia is just like Chip, but without a command grab, without super easy access to plus frames, as far as I know, right? Without super fast buttons, right? Like just kind of a weaker version of Chip. That's kind of how I view Milia. But that doesn't make her bad. It just makes her not as good as him. Because they have the same weakness, right? They have the same strength mix up, offense, high flying all over the place, and mixing, and their weakness is health, right? So I find it very interesting. I also found these tier lists super interesting. What do y'all think? I think out of all the tier lists, mine was the most similar to Goichi's, which I find pretty cool. I can't be too wrong, right? No, I'm totally kidding, but I do find this fun and entertaining. I find it interesting. And again, these are very, very early tier lists. Like I always say, pro players can be wrong. Don't take pro players' word as law. I never have. You never should. But it is interesting to look at it. I always pay attention when like the pro players, especially the consistent, high level, respected pro players, say something. The ones who don't consistently have bad takes, I love Sonic Fox, but Sonic be having some wild takes. But I always find it interesting to check these out, just to kind of see where their heads are, what they're thinking, and see if it aligns with what I'm thinking and what we're thinking, right? Not to just say, oh, Goichi said this, so I should play. Like, I'm not playing Chip because I think Goichi said he's good. I'm playing Chip because I think Chip helps out with something I need help with, right? And I think he's kind of fun, man. You just kind of do things. Like, you just kind of run around and go crazy, and it's kind of fun. But yeah, anyway, that's all I got for y'all today, man. I just wanted to go over some of the Japanese players' tier list. Let me know what y'all think. Do y'all think these tier lists are really good? Do y'all think it doesn't even matter because the game has only been out 2 weeks? Which I would say I agree with, honestly, at this point. Play who you want to play. There might be a slight balance update with the first DLC character. There might not be, but there might be. So I wouldn't get married to the idea that you need to play Soul, you need to play Mei, you need to play Leo, just because they're top tier, right? But I mean, if you do pay attention, you do see a lot of these characters, right? You see a ton of Soul, you see a ton of Leo, you see a ton of Mei. They are strong characters. Ramlethal, they are strong characters. There's no question about that, right? So I think all the tier list is telling us is, hey, we think these characters are strong. The other characters, they're either weaker or we just don't know yet. They're kind of underexplored because you don't see that many Kai players. You don't see that many Potemkin players. You don't see that many Faust players, right? Like those characters are relatively underexplored. So I don't even think it's safe to say they're bad. But anyway, I don't want to talk y'all heads off. Again, if y'all enjoying the content, please sub to the channel. Almost at 2K subs. Appreciate y'all. Other than that, man, I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. Y'all stay safe. JSF, I'm outie. Peace.